point in the remote influencing process, back off. Get them started on their story and then back off and let them take over the process of doing what you want them to do. Okay? As the son became enraptured with his daydream, I backed away and let him guide his own daydream to the things he thought were the most important. As he continued mentally, boasting to his son about what Dad does for a living, I sat in the operations building in Fort Meade, Maryland, taking notes, and we found out everything that was in that factory. Okay, yes?
Did you take into account the time difference? I mean, did you have to go ahead a little bit or behind a little bit? Because if it's 9 in the morning in Fort Meade, Maryland, then it's like some other time in Vladivostok or wherever this guy was.
What's in the factory is in the factory. I didn't even bother with the time. I moved to the time when he was in the factory. See, like I say in CRV, moving back 10 feet and moving back 10 years, no difference. So you move, in fact, the command, move to the proper time and access the target, okay? Your subconscious knows what the proper time is, okay.
Did you say that command again?
Move
to the proper time?
Move to the proper time and whatever you want to do. Yes. But the second half of that, move to the proper time, is something for your subconscious. And you make that, you know, the problem to your subconscious mind. Then for your conscious mind, you give it a present tense thing to do. Move to the proper time. Now tell me what you're hearing. And you'll find that the access is easier. Did this ever switch? Yeah. Keep the target involved. From that point on, as I was working, there would be interruptions and so on. I would only get him back started on his daydream, okay? And then I would back off again. Now, whatever his real daydream was, I have no idea. But it was something that rewarded him for something that he was not allowed to do. All I know is that I had a story going in my mind, and I knew that a similar story would be going on in his daydream in his mind, okay?
When you do subsequent sessions, you just go back to the last page of your previous session and continue?
When you do subsequent sessions, I just go back, yeah. Mm-hmm. Okay, don't stay too long. When I had the information we needed, here's the answer to your question. I sent physical stimulus to him to bring him out of his daydream, to stop it. But it was accompanied with a good, warm feeling about having this daydream. Oh, it's okay to have daydreams like this that violate security. It's fun. It didn't hurt anybody. See? No harm done. And that gave him an ease to go back into it anytime I needed to go back and get more information. The information we got from this session, by the way, was highly accurate. And I did not do a remote viewing on the factory. Okay? Any questions on that?
Well, it's not quite on the remote influence, but so you could only access, you could access daydreams, but you cannot access this deeper, you obviously knew that stuff anyway, but you can't just access that by your...
You might be able to. This one instance, I happened to be playing with this, developing it at home and all that, and so I thought, here's a tool, you know. I tried it and it worked.
Okay, but the point,
could I have remote viewed it? Probably so. I don't know.
But daydreams are more quiet, more available. Is that the take-home message there?
No, I was just trying something new. I was trying out a new plan. Could I have remote viewed it the normal way?
Yeah.
Probably so. I don't know. Okay. Okay. Yeah, what is this doing? Okay. I did some work with Dr. Mann, specialist in hypertension, high blood pressure cases at Cornell Medical Center in New York City. The stated purpose was to remote influence 12 chronic hypertension patients to decrease their blood pressure under laboratory conditions. Each patient had dangerously high blood pressure at the beginning of treatment. Each patient would be remote influenced only once, and the way he did it, he would notify me when a patient was coming in and going under the blood pressure machine, and they would have them on it for 30 minutes at a time. They knew the standard pattern. The standard pattern is that over a period of time, 30 minutes time, this hypertension patient would drop maybe 10 points on the top one. Systolic. I'm not a doctor. On the high one, and now he would notify me when there was a patient there on the machine. I would flip a coin. If it came up heads, I would do a remote influencing session. If it came up tails, I wouldn't. I just wouldn't do anything. I also made a record of it, but I did not tell the doctor whether I was doing a session that day or not. What he did was he kept the readouts at the end of the project. We compared the times when I did a remote influencing session and the results to the times when I didn't and the results, okay? So it was a double-blind study. Dr. Mann kept all the data on the patients throughout the study. I kept the data on the remote influencing. Okay. The method I used, I accessed the person normally. I used a visualized analogy, a story, to address the problem. I would manipulate that story to bring about a desired conclusion before stopping. I don't know why these are coming out. Okay. The patients for whom I worked, RI sessions, showed an average drop in blood pressure over the targeted time of 25 points beyond the expected norm.
Wow.
The times when I did not do sessions, there was no difference from the expected norm.
Could you go back to the last slide just briefly?
I will try.
You used the visualized analogy to address the. Are you going to go over that?
Yeah. Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Yeah.
Never mind.
I have a
Okay.
question too on.
Yes.
I may have missed. You said there was a coin flip to determine.
Whether I would do a session or not.
Okay, so it was randomized in that sense.
That's right. Yeah. Mm-hmm. Yeah. Okay. The project was continued with 3 targets per week for 4 weeks, and then we, got our paperwork together and summed it up to try to figure out what would happen. Results: a direct and measurable effect was shown. A dependable effect was shown. The effect was repeatable and dependable. When the patients returned to their daily lives, any effect of that work was diminished and gone. Yeah. As a result of that, the amount of effect was considered enough to potentially save someone's life if they were in a crisis condition, but the amount of effect was not enough to bring patients below hypertension level, and it was not permanent. Therefore, the doctor said, it's good, it shows a result, and I might give you a call in the middle of the night if I have an emergency situation, but as far as working with you over a period of, a whole patient's treatment, I don't see where it would do any good. And I agreed with him, because whatever their life was that was giving them the hypertension, they went back into it, and it was gone. Okay.
Theoretically, you could get that patient's permission to go on and do more work
Right.
with their subconscious.
I could. Uh-huh.
Well, better would be to train them to do it to themselves.
Yes, it would. Yeah.
Same so
Her comment was that you could go on and work with that person, and Marty's comment was, or you could train them to do it themselves, which
In a peer-reviewed journal of
he never published it. I think he passed the information to Savely Sava. I think he did. Savely Sava at Masaha, the Monterey Institute of SAHA. I forget what it stands for. If you look at masaha.com, MISAHA.com, it's run by a man named Savely Sava. He runs everything out of pocket, and he can take all the help he can get. He's a Russian immigrant who has come over here, who is trying to legitimize alternative healing methods, working with doctors and insurance companies. What he's trying to do is legitimize it to the point where he can show the insurance companies that it would be to their financial benefit to fund and to pay alternative healers. He's done phenomenal work. You need to look it up. He's a meticulous man in his research. He puts out a newsletter, and he's done some fantastic work. I mean, and the community seems to just not know about it.
A link came up with Russell Tarr's wife.
Oh, absolutely, yeah, Okay, suggested further actions were to do long-term work on each person repeatedly and in-depth strength in order to strengthen the effect, to test other protocols by working on separate individuals using different protocols. He asked me, you know, he said, oh, this is the CRV, this is, you know, great thing, this is what the military used and all that. I said, yeah, but it's not the only thing. You know, maybe one of the problems we had was that CRV, or the remote influencing by the CRV method, maybe it's just not perfectly adjusted to the problem, and we need to look around and find out what else might work better. Since this preliminary work did not show RI to be permanently curable, further action was not taken, and that was the end of the project. Okay, how was it done? Set up the metaphor before you go into session, okay? Get the other person involved. You access them, you get them involved. In this case, I'm taking one of the patients that I worked with. In fact, the one that I had the most success with. So this is not my normal, this is my best one. This is my sugar one, yeah. I pictured myself standing on a hot, dusty road with something coming at me full speed. I flagged it down to ask directions, and there was the person driving the car, okay? To ask directions to a cool, quiet pool with a waterfall. I made the first suggestion. Would you like to see it for yourself? Okay. No. So I immediately, instead of fighting that suggestion, I bypassed it. Said, hey, look at those deer out there in the clearing. Okay, so I expanded my own thing. Distract, okay? Distract from the conflict. And you involve the other person as you begin to experience the story. That person and I went out to see the deer and went out to, you know, hide in the woods and see the deer, okay? I created a small pool and a waterfall in the woods. We stopped to watch a winged sprite swimming around in the pool. This person was a female, okay? Had it been a male, I might have had something else swimming in the pool, like, you know, or fish or something like that, you know. Yeah. Boy, get his first thought here. Huh? What?
What object did you make float in the water for the lady?
One of those woodland sprites, you know, the little fairies with the wings and all that, was diving into the pool and all. And you move the focus to the target person. The sprite had a peaceful, soothing voice and only addressed, I made sure in my story that I had going that the sprite never addressed me. The sprite always addressed that other person and got them involved, okay? I became an observer as the target person got involved and started answering back and forth and conversing with this sprite. And then turn the story over as soon as that person is involved in this metaphor, get yourself out of the picture. What you're trying to do is get them to do themselves what you want them to do. So don't sit there and say, quiet, 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 you know. You notice at no point in here did I ever tell the person to calm down, you know, any of that. You get the person involved in doing something. You want a person to calm down, get them involved in a calm activity rather than standing there telling them calm down. Okay? It works. Standing there telling them to calm down, you know, may make them totally hyper. That works with children too, by the way, for as parents know. You tell them, sit down, behave. You may get them to sit down, but you know, that's about as far as that's going to go. You get them involved in some good activity, they sit down and behave. You know, simple as that. Keep the target involved. Check back if they're straying from the daydream or whatever. All of a sudden, your daydream, which is actually being run now by your own subconscious, will start to go a little bit off kilter. Things will start going wrong. You grab the daydream, you push it back, and you make things go right, okay? I only influence the story, but not the target person. Important point. From this point on, I never tried to influence the person. I only kept working the story, all right? The person's own negative moods took the story in a way that I didn't want to go, I would bring the story back, okay? As the story progressed, the person's mood matched the desired influencing more and more. But don't stay too long, okay? Give a person the experience you want in the remote influencing, and then get out. Then go back later, do it again. Go back later and do it again. Don't sit there and try to change the world by 9 p.m. in the morning, okay? You change the world little at a time.
Isn't this similar to lucid dreaming?
This is similar.
Get involved.
This is similar to just about everything that you've ever learned. I mean, you know, am I telling anybody anything new here? I'm just putting it together. Yeah.
Can you define how you quote unquote back off the story?
Yes. Anybody who's ever written a story type book or something like that, you know that at some point the characters in the story take over and you keep writing just to see what's going to happen next, you know. And it's the same situation. At some point you'll realize the story has taken on a life of its own, then you become an observer. And you just see how this daydream type thing goes.
Basically continue writing from the other person's subconscious.
No. From that point on, you're viewing the story. You're not viewing the target person. You're viewing the story to see what happens next. In CRV, the command is progress normally through time and describe. Okay.
How are you receiving the feedback from the person? You know how he's responding to all this, but
consciously, you're receiving feedback from your subconscious. Your subconscious is matching whatever's going on in his story by interpreting it into your story and feeding it up to you.
so if the story in your head suddenly takes a turn
That you don't
right
want?
is angry, then you
That's
know
right.
there's resistance.
You know there's resistance. Then you go back and you calm the sprite down and you get them working together again, you know. Don't stay too long. Repeated remote influencing works a whole lot better than going in with a sledgehammer and trying to make a change. Okay, Prue?
Were the patients told that they were involved in the study?
I'm sorry?
Were the patients told at any time that they were part of the study?
Each of the 12 patients had to sign a release form, and they were told that they would be a part of a study where a remote influencer would try to heal them. Or he said a remote healer will try to heal you.
Yeah.
But he also told them that there would be a coin flip, and so they didn't know they had no way of knowing which session that they were on the blood pressure machine. They had no way of knowing which session it was going to be. Okay. Sandy?
Can you kind of sketch out the 30-minute period, say at this time this happened, and at this time at 15 minutes I did this, or 20 minutes, or?
Okay.
Did you have a time protocol?
The
or
question,
time discipline or schedule?
yeah, the question is, could I set out a time thing like the first 30 minutes and all that? No, I can't, because accessing each patient was an individual thing.
But they had a 30-minute time in which to work on which they were being monitored, right?
Right, uh-huh.
Okay.
There were a couple of the sessions where at the end of the 30, it had come up heads and I was going to do the session, you know, the remote influencing session, and at the end of the 30 minutes, I hadn't even made access. And so I copied that down and that was part of it. That one session, by the way, that happened that way, there was also no change from significance because I hadn't even done any remote influencing, even though I had done a session and tried it. Now, the following session, I don't know if I was having a bad streak or what, had the same thing, and by the end of the 30 minutes, I hadn't even gotten access to the person. And then that evening, something in me said, duh, you can move through time, Lynn. And so I sat down, moved back to the proper time, and did my session and had the access. And a couple of weeks later, we checked the thing, and sure enough, the success had been there. And so, you know, duh. It's like September the 9th. Linda and I were out on the porch, pacing back and forth, both of us. Don't go to New York tomorrow. Don't go to New York tomorrow. Something's wrong. Something's wrong, you know. Sure enough, September the 10th, I went to Manhattan. September the 11th, there I was. You know, September the 9th, Linda and I both pacing back, something's wrong. I just feel bad about this, you know. What, we didn't have a remote viewer in the house? You know? It just never occurred to us, yeah.
When you develop the story,
Yeah.
how do you write the story on paper?
I tend to, yeah.
Okay.
The more physical you get, usually the better it works.
Okay.
Yeah. I imagine you could do it without that, but I tend to just write it.
During the session you write it, or before the?
During the session, yeah.
Do you draw pictures or put words down?
Yes. The question was, do you do pictures or write words down? Yes, both. Okay. Okay. Now then, remember I promised you this is not a lecture series. This is a workshop. During this workshop, if we can find a volunteer, a guinea pig, we will attempt to raise and lower a person's blood pressure and or body temperature. I brought the thermometer, I brought blood pressure cuff, and if we have a volunteer,
I volunteer.
do you? Okay. Then we will need someone who, now, do you have any blood pressure problems?
Not at all.
Good, okay.
Wait a minute, what if she has an orgasm?
Then we have to, yeah, yeah. Then we have to figure out whether or not it was your fault. Okay, so we need someone who knows how to work a blood pressure cuff.
There's Navy guys next door.
One of
Right
the
over
officers.
there.
Boy, you're going to get to those Navy guys, aren't you?
Is that the one with the cuff on the wrist?
Or just around the arm. And you squeeze the thing, blow it up, and
I mean, do her with the
yeah, mhm, yeah.
do her. What are you thinking about?
Okay, okay. Now, obviously, you can't be in the room here while we're doing the influencing, or we'd say, raise her blood pressure, and you'd know. Okay, so we have to have you somewhere else. We'll give you a tape of what we do, okay? All right. I hate for this to fall apart at this point. Does anyone know?
I don't know, I've never done blood pressure for somebody else before, but I'll be glad to. You've done it for yourself.
Yeah, but do you know how to do the reading?
Do you know how to read it?
Oh,
I
he's
do.
a doctor of chiropractic medicine. He should
Oh, yeah.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay. just had another duh experience here.
What happened in this? Can we take like a 10-minute break or something?
Yeah, let's take about a 10-minute break.
George?
5 minutes later, he'll come back and write the readings. If we've said the temperature should go up, then we'll see what happens. Same with the blood pressure. When we start doing this, remember, we're going to have one person lead this situation. One person will come up with a scenario, okay? So if we're going to lower the blood pressure, you're going to want to come up with a scenario that's calming and so forth. If it's raise the blood pressure, you'll want to come up with a scenario that will pass excitement, okay? To prudence, yeah. Mhm.
Hoping how to do that.
Yeah.
I'm not gonna tell my scenario.
Okay.
I suggest you just
Yeah.
not flip a coin.
I think I'm gonna pass on this one.
But then, as you start that scenario, as the one person starts that scenario, what I want you to do is have everybody in the room start imagining that scenario and keeping the scenario going in the direction. Now, obviously, everybody in this room quietly will have their own version of the scenario. It doesn't matter because Prue's going to have her own version of the scenario too. So it doesn't matter. But I will want you to get physical with this and write it down, okay? And so you'll need pen and paper, and whatever the scenario comes up with, you'll need to write the scenario down as though you were writing a story. All right?
We're doing this scenario. In that scenario, in which role do we put ourselves? Do we put ourselves in Prue's role, or in the role of, like you said, with out of the lake coming the Sprite, whatever?
Okay, for the time being, many of you here don't know how to access a person mentally. Okay, just say, I'm going to send Prue this story. It'll be an extremely light access, but many times in order to access a person properly, you're going to spend an hour in session. We don't have that hour. So just ask yourself with, I'm going to send this story to Prue, and
Also, I don't imagine myself in the story in any way. I just imagine Prue.
no, you imagine yourself in the story in the beginning. At some point in the story, when you get the feeling that, okay, in the beginning you put yourself in the story and then try to get Prue involved. At some point when you feel that she is involved, you start backing yourself out of the story. Okay?
I put myself as Prue. I put myself.
No, you do not put yourself as Prue. You put yourself as yourself. Okay? So like in that story there, I put myself on a dirt road, hot dirt road, dusty and all that, and here was this car coming at me, man, full blast. That is the person with hypertension, high blood pressure, the type A personality. I flagged him down. I flagged her down. And then I didn't confront the situation. I asked for directions. And then I said, would you like to go with me? There was immediate resistance. No, I wouldn't. Deflect that resistance. Oh, look at those deer out there in the field. Then the two of you go out there and you build this story to where you get that person involved. Pretty soon when the person is involved, like the elf, the sprite, I had the sprite always talk to that woman and never to me, because I was in the process of turning the story over to her. And then as soon as you get the story involved, her in the story, you back out. By that time, 5 minutes will have gone by, and he'll be in here telling us the result. Okay? Yeah.
The hot, dusty road just for contrast to the cool, or was there some reason for that? And also,
I started with that because it was a hypertension case, and that was
what their situation.
that was turmoil, you know, uncomfortable situation and everything. Yes.
You said, I'm going to send the story to Prue and, was there more to that, or?
No, there wasn't. There wasn't Prue and somebody else, but you know, you say I'm going to send the story to Prue, and then we'll have someone in here set up a scenario, and then all of you take that scenario and run with it in your mind. Okay?
Has he been told to come report?
He's been told to come back in, yeah. We're running out of time, way out of time.
Can you get that back up?
I'll try. Great. Here you go.
Pool.
To the pool,
Yeah.
which to me says, sitting out there in the hot sunshine, the temperature is going to raise. Yeah.
She also just.
I think this may not be a pure research project going on here. Yeah. Uh-huh.
Lynn, what do the red lines represent?
The red lines here, these are the things, when people try remote influencing, these are the things they always forget to do. Okay? Move to the right time for influencing. So if you want to make a person if you want to make a person give you a phone call, all right? Don't move to them now and say, make a phone call, make a phone call, make a phone call. What you do is you move to a time when they're making a phone call and make them think of you. Okay?
So everything's real time in this case. Present.
In this case, yeah, with Prue, everything's real time now, yeah. The other is bypass resistance. Don't fight resistance, bypass it. Remember that first suggestion will always hit resistance. Even if it's a nice one, it'll hit resistance. If it were something they wanted to do, they would have already done it and you wouldn't have to be there in the first place. Okay? The other, people stay and they want to control and control and control and keep controlling and run the story and all that. No, you turn it over and you get yourself out of it. You let that person influence themselves. You don't try to sit there and control them. This is not remote control. It's remote influence. Big difference. And yes, for the question, there is remote control. Okay?
I do have a question.
Yes.
You assume access, right? You do not need.
You assume access.
You assume access.
Right, uh-huh, yeah.
You have to have yourself in that first image.
Yes.
It couldn't be an elf.
No.
How come?
Because you're not talking to the target person. You're talking to your own subconscious mind. So you always put yourself in this in the beginning. Yes, Sandy.
If I remember correctly, there may have been a situation where you're trying to influence them to be happy or influence a mental state. What if their mental state is so friggin' boogered up that you can't? I mean, is there a situation where it's just blah and just so?
Then I would get a story such as, here's a person out in the Badlands climbing over these hills and all the mesquite and everything and, you know, all these, you know, everything, and then find some way to smooth that land out. Okay? Smooth it out and make it level. The low spots are going to come up, the high spots are going to come down, and such as that. Okay? These scenarios are very simple. Yeah. Okay.
The first one about 3 months ago.
Heads, we raise the temperature. Are they sitting out in the sun?
No, they're here, they're right,
Oh, okay.
you can pull that thing back and see them right there if we need to give them information.
That may be a problem because subliminally she may be able to hear through the... okay, so I'm not going to say out loud. Heads, raise... Subliminally, you'd be amazed what can happen. Heads, raise the temperature, tails, lower the temperature.
Just draw the answer on the board, she can't hear.
That's what I'm going to do.
Oh.
Okay? Blood pressure. Heads raise, tails lower. Okay. Let me have a volunteer real quick. Okay. Think up a scenario that would raise a person's temperature. A story. No. Jogging. Okay. All right. Everybody, you're jogging along, okay? You are jogging along. You're jogging along, and guess who you meet on the way? Prue. Now then, you're jogging along. The two of you are jogging along, okay? At some point, you're going to start saying, would you like to go faster? Resistance, no. Okay, and you speed up a little bit, and you start talking behind. What's she going to do? She's going to catch up, all right? Now then, as you go, at some point, say, okay, here's where I drop off, see you later, and let her keep running at that higher speed. See how it works? Simple scenario, okay. Volunteer. Come on, somebody raise their hand. Okay, Jim, you're jogging along with Prue, okay? Give me a scenario, in that scenario, that would allow her blood pressure to go down. She gets into the zone, okay?
That's what I was thinking, she gets into dreamlike.
She gets in a dreamlike zone, okay? And so, as you're jogging along with Prue, okay, start talking to her about things that would cause her imagination to start getting off and start her thinking about things, maybe thinking about some new idea of remote viewing or something that will get her thinking and will get her mind off of the running and onto something else, so that as she's running along at this higher pace, she gets her mind off the running and her blood pressure goes down. There's an inconsistency.
Can we change the scenario?
Sure.
The scenario would be that, you're in a sauna,
You're in a sauna.
and your temperature's going up. You're getting hot in the sauna.
Yeah.
But you're relaxing.
But you're relaxing in the sauna.
Yeah, that's better.
Go with it, okay? However,
How about if you
now wait a minute. Just a minute. Remember, you don't tell a person quiet, okay? You get them doing something quiet. So in that sauna, you've got to start some activity which is going to get the two of you quietened down, and you start talking, you start playing chess in the sauna. You do something that will lower the blood pressure, and then at some point you back off and you let her keep going.
What about asking, what do you think about a vacation on the beach in Cozumel?
So that she starts imagining a beach in Cozumel.
Would that work?
That's your scenario. The two of you are sitting in a sauna individually. Everybody in this room, start thinking of something that would get her blood pressure lowered. Get a pen. Start writing your story. Okay?
Doing blood pressure first?
We're doing both temperature and blood pressure. Yeah, one story with both. You're sitting in the sauna, so the temperature is going to go up. Okay? We've already used most of the 5 minutes we have for doing that. Okay? But you see how the process goes. Rather than actually making the change, what I'm wanting to teach you is the process. Then you can practice this at home. So we'll see in a few minutes whether the short time we've got here is actually having an effect. If it produces the desired outcome. Everybody take your story and start writing. Keep writing. Develop the story. Keep going. Okay? Once you turn it over to her, then you're still in the story, but now then you're sitting observing. Okay? And so you're sitting in this sauna, you've been talking about Cozumel, or you've been playing chess or whatever, and now then you back off and you start watching her daydream, or you start watching her move the chess man around, whatever. Yeah, I hope. I think the answer is no. You talk to your subconscious. Okay? Even if you just sit there and doodle with your pen as you're thinking about this, do something physical. This is a martial art.
Are we setting it up, or are we actually doing it?
You're doing it now, yeah. Yeah, keep going. There he comes. Good deal. Okay. Go ahead and give me the reading.
There it is. I've already put it on the board.
No.
Doing them in 5-minute increments now.
Okay. Just a minute. We've run out of time, so that's going to have to be it. Do a whole experiment on one sample. Okay. Okay.
Okay. You want one more?
No. That's it. Yeah. Okay.
Wait, another 5 minutes?
Huh?
He has to go out and get it anyway.
We've really run out of time. I'm sorry. Okay, the temperature went down. Blood pressure, which for going from here outside to have the temperature go down, that's strange. Okay.
Blood pressure's probably very low anyway.
Blood pressure went up. We failed. Okay.
We didn't start.
I know, we didn't even start. I don't care. The thing I wanted to show you was the process. And the process of this is simply that. Simply this set of steps right here. Okay?
You know what? Prue's messing with us.
Yeah, she's messing with us. Yeah.
She's
No.
Then would you normally go through the ideogram?
Prue failed. What?
Would you normally go through the ideogram and stuff you showed us in the earlier
Yes.
example? And this we didn't.
That's right. You didn't do a CRV session. You didn't, yeah. We can sit here and waffle all we want. You know, the end result is that it took just the opposite. Yes,
No, the viewers never wrong.
that's right.
Information in your CD?
It will be on that tape. Yeah. Uh-huh.
No, I mean on the one on these.
No.
Or the CD thing? That's just basic?
No. Okay. But we had a person with a rising temperature have their blood pressure go down. I don't think, you know, so I don't know if that's Prue or what. We didn't have a chance to really do it. We have run out of time. Does anyone have any questions about the process? Because that's what I wanted to show you. I'm not really concerned about this. Would have been nice, but I'm not concerned about it. Questions about the process? Okay. Then,
How do you end off?
hmm?
How do you end off? Can we turn the sauna on?
Can you turn the sauna off? That's right. Back out. Yeah.
Well, I have, never mind.
What do we do at the end?
Huh?
What do we do at the end?
How do we end it?
How do you end it? Okay. There is, in remote viewing, in all remote viewing, people drift on afterwards and they keep thinking, oh, that target, you know. Easy way to end a session. Bill, easy way to end a session. Take your pen, put it on the paper, and write end session. It works. Yeah. Yeah, it clips it off. It's a physical activity, clip it off. Okay, did we go way too long or what? Okay. All right.